Hey, Blue Table fans, Sean here. And today I'm gonna bore you out of your skull. No, seriously. This afternoon I am basing 300 Bretonians. Yes. It's actually quite therapeutic. And so the edging is earth. And got to go over it twice, turns out, because you can't have any like paint strokes, you know. I've always found painting very calming. So you might think, well, Sean, why don't you just have somebody do this? Well, you know what? I'm actually kind of enjoying myself. And this week I put together a crew, and you guys have kind of met them. And my veteran painters are working on other projects independently. And you know, before I talk about business, I want to talk a little bit about, you know, I don't know, personal stuff, because some of you guys may be going through the same thing or something similar. Or, you know, I often get emails from people, you know, saying, hey, thanks for talking about such and such topic. You know, and I'm just a regular guy trying to make sense of what's going on this planet. And as you guys know, I was like really involved in politics from 2008 to 2012, is it? Yeah, 2012. And now I pretty much just don't even watch the news. You know, it's like, well, what can you really affect? You know, so that was fun while it lasted. And so anyway, well, as you guys know, I was divorced last October, and you know that's a pretty big life change there. And I think that, you know, marriage as an institution is you know, whatever your opinion, it does have a very solidifying effect, because, you know, you've got, you know, friends, family, I guess the weight of culture all comes together to kind of, you know, cement this relationship. And hello, is this going? Yeah, it is. Hey. So it has a very solidifying effect. So when a change is called for whatever reason it may be, maybe it's a good reason, maybe it's not a good reason. I mean, how would anybody know that unless they were actually involved, you know? So whenever a change is called for, what could be an easier process now becomes very, very traumatic, you know? And I think that it's like you grow up, you watch a lot of TV, and so a lot of cultural expectations come out of media, basically. You know how it's going to be, like childbirth. You know, the woman's screaming; it's this giant, horrible ordeal, and you know, I obviously can't speak from personal experience, and I'm not saying it's not difficult at all, but you know, I have 4 kids, and Tammy and I had them, almost all of them using a method called meditation birthing, or that's what we call it. I think there's another name for it, but it's like Tammy would put herself into a trance, you know, and without intervention, she'd just have that child, you know, kind of let the natural process take its course, and it wasn't traumatic. And so anyway, with marriage, it's like, you know, it's funny. I think about doing these videos and they sound so much clearer in my head. And when I actually do them, I'm like, I can't think straight. But you know what? That's how you got to start. You got to just do it. So with marriage, it's like these expectations kind of, you know, they're just, they're there without talking about it. I think a lot of people get married and don't really think it through, you know, and don't know exactly what, you know, is involved. But by the time you've signed the contract, you know, you're kind of in it. So anyway, so it's been a year. We were divorced in October. I initiated it, and it was, you know what, let me just kind of give you the overview of the story. And this is all very personal, and obviously I'm putting it out there now. And, you know, as a further preface, I'd say, you know, obviously everything I say is kind of suspect because I'm only telling my side of the story. But the fact is, you know, it wasn't an adversarial process to begin with. You know, I took probably a year to just think about it. And that was part of a larger process, you know, like it's been probably 3 years now that I've been looking at my life, looking at how I think, how I do things, my relationships. And the trouble all started in 2012 when an author, one of my favorite authors, Bob Proctor, he you know, challenged me to think about my life, like how would I have things if I could have things any way that I wanted. And, you know, it's interesting because I had really just been, my whole life had kind of been this thing where I was just kind of going along with the default mode, you know. And of course you guys know that I was a Mormon. I was a Mormon from age 15 to 42. So that's kind of like the premium chunk of life. And so anyway, so when you're a Latter-day Saint, a Mormon, Latter-day Saint, by the way, is kind of the correct term. And so when you're a Mormon, your life is really kind of on the rails to a great extent. You know, there's very clear expectations. You know, if you love family and order and security, boy, that is a great society to be a part of. So I'm certainly not knocking it. And anyway, so yeah, I kind of started thinking about everything, reading books, questioning, you know, well, what's really going on here? Well, hello. Is that the sample guy? Ooh, that's good when you can't tell which one's the sample and which one's the one that we painted. Yeah, the samples are still over there. So anyway, so I thought it would be different than it turned out. In some ways it's better. And I mean the whole questioning thing. So yeah, I thought about it for a year. It was clear to me that it was a mismatch. And, you know, on my way out, I was like, well, you know what? You gotta be, like, because a lot of times I think people like the situation is so terrible they finally get divorced. You know, and my situation, even though I had my reasons, you know, it wasn't terrible. Tammy and I were generally getting along very well. But it was clear to me that we weren't a match at the most profound level. And, you know, you gotta, before you sign on for a 70-year contract, it'd be best to, you know, think about what it is that you're getting into it for, you know. And I think in LDS culture, there's what I call the checkbox husband. And so what happens is this Mormon girl is raised very in a very regimented fashion, you know, checklists and activities to go to. It's all great, you know, do that. That's fantastic. I'm not saying it's bad or good, but it is definitely regimented, and there's this huge pressure. So if the family is LDS, there's this enormous, like, you know, here's how you're going to do it. And, you know, you're supposed to save yourself for marriage. You know, it's fun. I started watching a series called Jane the Virgin, you know, and in this series, this young woman, Jane, her grandmother takes a flower, you know, this beautiful white flower, and she gives it to this little girl, Jane, the young Jane, and she's like, now crush it. You know, she's like, that's your virginity. So once you lose it, you can never go back. You know, and that's what the young women are taught. It's like, you know, who wants to eat an apple where there's a bite already taken out of it? And so that's, you know, that's kind of how it is, for good or ill. And so the girls kind of have this idea that they're going to, you know, the boys go on their missions to be missionaries when they're 19, and they go for 2 years. So you're supposed to marry a returned missionary in the temple. Now, it doesn't say that. There's no manual that says you have to do that. But it's in the undercurrent. It's in the society. So you've got these Mormon girls, and they are just ramped up to, you know, marry their returned missionary and live their fairy tale lives, which is great. I think that it actually works a lot of the time. And well, of course, you never know what's going on behind closed doors, you know. And so, wow, I have actually kind of got to the end of this. So, all right, let's change topics for. You know what? No, I'm gonna finish the thought. So anyway, so now you have these young men. They haven't touched a woman literally for 2 years, because you're not supposed to hug, much less, you know, kiss or anything else. And by the way, I did this. I went to South America for 2 years, lived an absolutely chaste and celibate life, and, you know, you come back. Well, before you leave, the head of the mission typically will say, you know what, now it's time to get married. Don't mess around. Now, I don't know if that's still a thing, you know, because my information obviously is 20 years old, and so it could be dated. So anyway, so yeah, you have these young men, haven't touched a woman for 2 years, and then, so if you do the math, there's only so many of those guys coming home, and there's probably more young women that, you know, have that in their heads that that's how it's going to happen. And so there's this pressure. So you get what I call the checkbox husband, that it's like, you know, she marries her man and now kind of doesn't know what to do with him. You know, like there's like the catalyst for the union is the social aspect of it. And so now I think this happens everywhere. There's kind of different versions of this. You know what, let me get another run of guys to do. Oh, you might also notice that I'm in my jammies, because if you're going to base 300 guys, you gotta be comfortable. There we go. Oh, those guys are already done. These guys are not done now. Let's bring these guys over. Where am I going to put this? Here we go. So, like the movie Don John with Joseph Levitt Gordon, is that who he's called? What his name is? In Don John, you know, it shows that the woman has kind of this, you know, fantasy of how it's gonna be, and so she kind of tries to pigeonhole the man into that, into whatever that is. So anyway, so for good or ill, that's I believe that's a phenomenon in Mormon culture that happens. So I can't speak for anybody but myself. In fact, I wasn't even speaking about myself there. But for me, marriage is about the union of two souls. And so it went that we had our 20th anniversary. And I waited. I was like, you know what? I am 98% sure this is a thing. But I took a year. I just carefully observed for a year. And I was like, and not just in my marriage, but in all my relationships. I'm like, oh, okay, this is how it is. And I would, I hate to give advice, but I'd say, whatever it is, just make a decision. If you're gonna be in a relationship, be in it all the way, and just do it, and without complaint. I don't think that, well, at least for me, it's like don't be in a relationship and then complain about it. You've got to either love it or end it. Ooh, that's good. Love it or end it. And so we had our 20th anniversary in March of 2014. Oh my gosh, that was like over a year ago, year and a half ago, more than a year and a half ago. And I made it the best thing that I possibly could. It was really an amazing experience. And in the lead up, I really determined I wanted to be the best husband that I could be, and to be as kind as I possibly could be. And go out with some class. Don't take a crap on the lawn and then peel out. That is not a saying. So anyway, when we were on our anniversary, I was like, people would just be like, oh, hey, here's to 20 years more. Here's to 40 years more. And I was just like, nope. Did not sound appealing. And so, in April, the day before my birthday, in April, we had the talk. And, it's one of those things, because I, was old and wise enough to understand that, once you have this discussion, there's no going back. Like you can't unsay those words. You said it. And so I just, asked her to gently let me go. And, it was a very tender conversation. Very tender. And Tammy really is a good woman. She really is a good woman. But on a fundamental level, when I started really looking at myself, I'm like, this is not, we're not a match. This is not, what it should be like. And so, to be fair, I'm the one that changed. I started asking questions about my life. I'd be like, I kind of went off the rails. I was like, what's the nature of reality? Let's talk about that. Is this wall even real? And it was just like, oh, Sean, to just really, for a woman that really just wanted security for life, that was not an adventure she wanted to go on with me. And so, to be fair, I'm the one that changed. And I think that if you're going to be with somebody be with them all the way. And it's got to be something that is amazing every day. Well, that sounded a little corny, I guess. So we didn't talk about it at all for 4 months. And that was her request. She didn't want to even discuss it. She needed 4 months to wrap her head around it. And we went to counseling. And I remember the first day that we went to counseling, the whole valley was covered with like this dust storm. Like you couldn't see the mountains, you couldn't see any, it was eerie. And in my mind, because I always like look for meaning in things, I was like, this is my life rewriting itself. Like, this is when it's that my future is sort of being erased, and other possibilities are coming in. So in October, we finally, it took a long time and a lot of meetings. In October 2014, we, went away for a few days. And we were, talking about how it would, all the details of it. There's a lot of details when you have 4 kids and several businesses, I mean, BTP is kind of the only thing I really got going on, but let's see here. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to that. But it was all very amicable, and I actually believe that, if Tammy and I got on camera and talked about it, we might be able to sort of set the pace for other couples if they, wanted to see, how you could do it very, very kindly, Well, and the thing is, Tammy said, that our split up was different because there wasn't an affront. Because a lot of times it's like one partner cheats, and and that wasn't the case with us. But to my mind, it's like when I hear that, it's like, oh well, she was cheating on him, and I'm like, well, yeah, but why? If it's so great, why would she be looking for something else? So it's humans can be very complicated. Ooh, I'll wash out my brush. Can't let paint dry on your brush, guys. So anyway, so yeah, in October we filed.